Good afternoon, everyone. How is everyone doing today on this wonderful Wednesday? Hopefully, you guys have an amazing day so far on this great and amazing day, making it your day. And of course, today, what we'll be talking about today kind of fits right in to what we talked about on yesterday's call. Excuse me. About trust. So today, what we'll be talking about today is competition versus collaboration, or collaboration versus competition, however you want to word it. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Is what does that look like and mean to each and every single one of us? Excuse me one second. Don't know what came over me, but I guess someone doesn't want me to start the broadcast right now. I don't know who that is, but whoever it is, I need to speak today. So no worries there. So we had a great and engaging conversation yesterday that was truly rooted around trust, and it was truly amazing. So if you could go back, excuse me, go back not only to my page, but also our business page here at Bringing Humanity Together, and go watch that replay. That was, well, like I said, one amazing conversation. Hold on a second. Man, I tell you what, I guess someone doesn't want to collaborate with me today. Gosh, whoever it is, please say, let Chris collaborate today. Let him speak. I just had some lunch. So I don't know what's happening, but I apologize. But we'll get through it together. But like I said, that conversation about trust yesterday was just truly amazing in and of itself. And I truly believe trust is interconnected to collaboration and maybe even competition for that matter. And that competition can be good in nature. It can actually create a lot of empowerment, a lot of excitement, even maybe create an environment where everyone can grow and thrive in. So I truly believe collaboration and competition can work hand in hand. But yet again, I'm also a firm believer too as well. Sometimes if you do it at the expense of others, that you literally do that for your own benefit and own net gain or whatever that might play out to be, it's only go excuse me. It's only going to be a one-sided kind of dynamic. It's always going to be relative to your place in space and no one else's. So that's why I truly believe there's that healthy balance of collaboration and competition that is there for all of us. But we just got to really recognize, number one, do we actually see the net positive to that versus the net negative? Because, like, each and every single time that I come on these calls, I truly believe it's always done from a place of perception. And I've said many times, and I'll say it again, that perception can lead into a place of deception if we allow that to occur. And maybe that place of deception can be rooted in a place that you're thinking in and of itself that you're having that healthy sense of competition, but when probably in the reality and what other people see from a universal standpoint, that people see things only from the lens of, well, it's only him making it about Chris, so he's only making it about Bob, or he's only making it out about Billy, or whoever that might be. It's like I said, that one-sided kind of dynamic. So when we truly, really realize that nothing is truly one-sided, it's truly collaborative in very nature. Excuse me. And we just allow that to occur, then most often than not, we can have the great opportunity and maybe even create the great environment that we all want to have in our lives that can provide growth, provide thriving opportunities, even create potential in each and every single one of us. And again, when we just simply are just willing to show up to that, that in and of itself is going to be a beautiful thing. So when we just allow that to be there in and of itself, that is a great thing. So if you'd like to join the call, you can just, like I said, click on that uh, link in the comment section of today's call. So, so let me go see who is ready to be on deck, so to speak. And I don't see anyone as of yet, but hopefully you'll get here in just a second. Because, like I said, I truly believe this conversation is going to go far and wide, and we're going to be here for 2 hours. So we got a lot of people who want to join into the conversation. So please, if you want to join in on the live stream, whether you're watching on YouTube or on our LinkedIn page, which is my personal profile, please say, I want in, send me the link or whatever that might be. And we would love to hear from you today in and of itself. So it's going to be, again, a great and amazing conversation today. And like I said, we would love to hear from all of you. What does collaboration and competition look like and mean to you in and of itself? And how does that play out each and every single time? Because I'm a firm believer, ladies and gentlemen, when we just allow people just to show up as who they really are, nothing more, nothing less, and we don't expect anything in and of itself, then I'm a firm believer that everything will naturally unfold probably in the way that it was kind of meant to. And like I said, I am not no predictor of the future. Like Karnak the Magnificent, like when Johnny Carson used to do those cards and did those jokes, and there was, I mean, I wish I could do that because some of those jokes that he did was really, 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 really funny. And maybe we can do a Bringing Humanity Together version of that. That would be kind of nice. To have the Karnak parody to that would be really good. But I just truly believe if you just let everything happen for what it is versus what it's not only will collaboration happen, but also competition will be actually that balance in and of itself. Anthony, hello, sir. How you doing today?
Doing good, but my headphones aren't connected. I had to switch over phones for some reason. It wasn't working.
How dare that technology not work for you, sir?
I got no clue, man. It's just Murphy's Law, isn't it?
No worries, no worries. And again, I truly believe we have a great segue before us today because what we talked about trust yesterday was just truly phenomenal. And what we'll be talking about today is collaboration and competition. So let's start the conversation there. How do you see that being done from not only from a place of trust, but what does collaboration and competition look like and mean to you?
Okay.
Anthony,
Yeah.
you there?
All right. I finally connected. For some reason, it just wasn't working. But I didn't hear what you were saying. I just heard you call, see if I was there.
I said, what does trust in the interconnector space of what that looks like when it comes to trust, collaboration, and competition, how all of that plays out for you each and every single day?
I mean, I think it comes down to a balance of trust with yourself, and then I guess the trust that you have for those who are around you, and a huge amount of that trust, or I guess all of that trust is kind of based around circumstances and what you expect of them. So you can trust that someone you're in a competition with is going to act in a way that's to give themselves the advantage over you. You can hopefully trust that someone you're working alongside will do things that not just only benefit themselves with the group without you know hurting you or harming your aspects of life. And then there's love trust where you just or I should say like a faithfulness, something like a relationship trust, where it's more that you're not going to do something that would hurt me emotionally. uh, but it depends on the circumstance, and so I think you have to recognize whenever you can trust someone. I think you should just try, you can trust unless you have a reason not to trust. And then once they trust, you should update your perspective on the circumstance, and then hopefully the circumstance that you see them into.
So, when it comes to collaboration, and we were kind of talking about this in our earlier call with Stephen Brusher, it's about the intention factor in and of itself. How does intention also play a role, not only in that collaboration kind of dynamic, but also from a place of competition? Do you believe that there's a healthy balance that where, like I was saying before you joined the call, that there can actually be seen the dynamic of a net positive versus a net negative? Because there's some people who believe that they're feeling like they're actually doing the betterment for somebody else, when in fact they're literally making it about them, and it's always about them and that kind of thing. I'd love for you to touch on that, and I would like to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to trust, intention, and competition, there's just this natural, I guess, state to think that competition is like this negative thing. But not only can you trust them to hopefully compete and better themselves, but you can trust them to better you through that experience, through the competition. You can trust that they're going to act again in their interest. And I mean, when it comes down to, can you rephrase exactly what it was you said when it comes to competition and just how that plays a part in your day to day? I'd say, I mean, you're going to always be in competition with yourself to some extent, whether or not you're aligning your beliefs with your actions, and being able to overcome hurdles with people, yourself. I think mostly yourself at first is how you'll be able to handle competition in the real world, adversity or any sort of collaboration. It all comes down to knowing yourself first. Um, you can't expect that you're going to be a good team member or be able to compete competitively if you don't know yourself well enough, right? Whether or not it's how you respond physically to a physical environment, how you respond emotionally to an emotional situation, or how you handle stress. If you don't know yourself well enough, then you don't just sabotage yourself by putting yourself someplace you don't belong, but then you're going to sabotage team members too, because they're going to have, hopefully, they have trust that you pull your end of the weight, but you didn't. You might have been too concerned maybe with what they were doing, and hoping, instead of having faith and trusting in them, you put too much of it, I guess, on worrying, and not enough of it in the moment. It's a really difficult balance. I mean, it's because there's so
Yeah.
much nuances that go with every situation.
Yeah, and that balance like Stephen was saying earlier today in our call, that there's that kind of like, it's like, what does that variance kind of look like? Is it a big variance, small variance, and everything in between? But the more that I'm thinking about this, I have to go back yet again to you on yesterday's call. There's something that really sparked inside of me yet again. Something you said, and I'd love for you to deep dive into this more too as well. Is you even said about the emotional respect of yourself and maybe of others. And I truly believe that has a hand to play in, even when it comes to collaboration, even into the place of competition too as well. How does that look like to you from the emotional respect kind of dynamic?
That's one aspect, is just having enough respect for your emotions. And so whenever you feel a certain way, I think the default reaction for people is to try and disregard, negative feelings, especially. So something that they want but they won't act on, or something that they're doing that they know they shouldn't. There's something that they keep feeling, they keep having these emotions, but they don't actually respect them enough to take time and focus on, well, why do I feel like this? If I don't desire this feeling, this is obviously not positive. Then what can I do? How can I spend my time to ameliorate that? Instead, they focus on something else, like, oh, I have to, try and, I guess, avoid some future negative emotion, instead of respecting it there and then in that moment. And if you don't respect your own emotions, then, I mean, you can't expect anyone to have respect for them, because you're not even able to defend them or argue them, or express them to the community. So that leaves you extremely vulnerable, because that's an aspect of yourself that no one can help you with. I mean, you can go to a therapist or psychologist or whatever, but at the end of the day, the information is still inside your head. They have to get you to give it to them. Either, they give you chemicals to suppress certain aspects of the way you feel, or to enhance others. But ultimately, and as I'm saying this, I'm talking to myself. Ultimately, it's all the answers to why you feel the ways you do, why you don't do certain things versus do certain things, are all answers that are within yourself. And so if you respect the emotions that you get when you get them, put the time into better understanding them, which usually means digging up possibly more pain. You feel a negative feeling, and you have to accept that that feeling might be telling you that you're wrong, or that some belief that you've been acting on is wrong. And you could respect it enough to basically like pay off that debt, to spend time and dig up what you're leaving behind for the future. Or you could just kind of swipe your credit card again. I'll just worry about this later. This feeling, I don't know what it's connected to or why it necessarily happened, but it'll probably happen again, and I won't be able to control when it happens. I'll just deal with it then, push it off for the future. And I think that just really builds up into regret, basically, right? Like, I think that's definition of regret. People are so afraid to face the regrets that they experience now in life, that they decide that I'll just keep pushing it off until, hopefully, I guess, you never have to experience it. So either you just have like a sudden death, or you just, otherwise you have to experience that regret. And to think to yourself that you would leave yourself behind, right? Because those regrets are connected to who you are, what you came to,
Mhm.
why are you here on earth? What was your life like? All the things that interested only you, all the things that only you saw or felt or could have explained, you left it behind. And now, it's too late. So, yeah, respecting your own emotions can make you a better collaborative partner, a better competition, and just a better person, a better human, and, free from future
Yeah,
regrets.
and I love that. And for me, the more that I get more introspective, even when it comes to regret, and this is my own personal viewpoint, and it may not be for everyone else, but for me, regret comes to a place of either you don't accept it, or you don't need it, or you don't even like it. It's almost something that you hate. And for me, regret gets to that place of, again, what Master Yoda said in Star Wars: anger leads to fear, fear leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. So regret, ultimately, for me, it gets to that place of suffering to a large degree. But suffering also has a good side to it if we allow it to occur. Because without the suffering, then how do we know success? How do we know joy? How do we know love? So again, it's about recognizing that there is that balance there. But for me, for a lot of years, I always placed myself in the place of a coulda, woulda, shoulda. Oh, I should have done this when I could have done that, and then all that kind of stuff. And I really, I get hindsight 2020 to such an nth degree. I literally play the kind of wordism games in my head of saying, well, you should have said this when you actually said that. So why in the hell did you say that? You almost play Monday morning quarterback after the fact of the game.
Yeah.
And I can't do that no more. It just makes no
Yeah.
sense.
I just consider myself like, unless I have a time machine somewhere, like, first of all, I don't have a crystal ball, so there's no way that I could have known. And so there's no point in getting upset at myself unless there's something that I avoided that I know I shouldn't have avoided. And if that's not the case, then right now the alternative again is that I don't have a time machine. So what's the purpose of having these negative feelings? Well, these negative feelings are like, just imagine you're a biological system and you've got all this information, and you can use this information to create simulations of the environment that's happening in the moment, that you experience them as fully as you can. You can also imagine the future, which is necessary for doing any sort of planning. So you can take whatever you have and you can perceive a possible future, or you can go back through your archive and pull out the old VHSs of the past and what happened. And that data is useful, but only so useful as you can use it to apply to your imagination, to your future. So to look back and have these negative feelings, you should be thinking to yourself, well, like, as much as that sucks, I'm really glad that I know that now, because going forward, I know how to avoid it. I know how to see it and smell it and feel that way before it happens. So that way I don't have to worry about that in the future. Alternatively, people just spend their time living in the now, but again, they're spending all of their time in the past playing through these simulations. Oh, if I would have done it right, then all these possibilities that really don't matter because you don't have a time machine. So, take the information and use it or lose it.
Or you can even take it a step further and bring the Matrix into play and bring Morpheus in and say, hey, I can show you the door, but you got to walk through it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what using the door is. It's like you feel a certain way that wasn't positive. What led to that? A lot of times people don't want to accept responsibility. They don't want to accept that something is incorrect, that they've made all these mistakes up till now. So instead of accepting it, going through the door, like, okay, maybe I feel this way because I am doing something right or wrong. What would that look like? What would that mean? How would I know? And then you would know, because if you weren't, it's always like a binary choice at the end of the day. So you feel negative, and there's always moments leading up to whatever caused that negativity where you have the decision to act or not to act, to think or not to think, to feel or not to feel. You have the option to do something or to not do something. And you either have regrets for, I think, generally speaking, for the things you didn't do. The only time you generally will regret something that you did do is something that you've already done before and are repeating, something that you shouldn't have done from a personal experience. So people want to try to avoid regrets and live a life that's meaningful to them, basically in any way that they think they want to define that happiness, purpose, anything like that. They need to be able to first dig within their own mind, and recognize that when you get that feeling in your chest because you're thinking about something that you don't like or don't want to think about, or someone says something, that means you need to address what you feel, right? Someone said something, I felt it in my chest. That means that there's something that I don't understand about myself, I'm self-conscious about, and they're exposing me. Alternatively, if they said something that didn't impact you in a way because you understand yourself, you wouldn't feel any sort of way. But, you're leaving all those feelings behind, and they're not going anywhere. They're just stacking up. And I think a lot of this is what leads to people who end up having anywhere from midlife crisis to, they just completely, what's it called when they just explode or whatever, they just react in some They suppress some feeling or whatever, and then they end up acting on it in some really extreme way. Because you literally have one hemisphere that's telling you no, 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 and the other one's saying go, go, go. This one's pumping go, go, go chemicals, and this one's saying no, no, no. And eventually, one of them's gonna break. You gotta act on something, because if you act on this, it'll get the information that says it's either good or bad, and then you'll know. Then you'll stop worrying about that. You won't think about it from now until the rest of your life, every time you re-experience that. So fundamentally, I think when it comes to trust, you have to be able to trust yourself. And you can't trust yourself if you don't know yourself, if you won't even ask yourself questions and dig in and accept the truth that you give to yourself, you feel, and how you behave. And when they're out of alignment, you have cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that. And Ileana, glad to see you here too as well. Love for you to join the call. The link is already in the description, not only in the description, but it's also in the comment section of today's post. We would love to hear from you too as well. Uh, but for me, as you were just sharing there, yeah, hitting another home run again, Anthony, I can't be remiss in recognizing. I have to bring this to the table. Yes, I'm going against what I truly believe in Star Wars, but I have to go to something that's going to be really powerful. Let's jump over to Star Trek for a second. Who is the most logical character in that universe?
Spock, right?
It is Spock. So, as you guys may or may not know, Spock comes from a race of Vulcans who are really so, I guess I won't call it tribal, but they were so driven by their emotions to such an extent they actually had to say to themselves, we can't be ruled by our emotions anymore. We got to have logic kind of dictate the way that we do our work in life. But I believe Spock was the one person that had that unique perspective that he not only saw his very humanity because he had a human mother, but also he kind of pointed out the very same qualities that kind of made the Vulcan race for what it really truly could have been becoming, and what his father saw even in his human mother. Because I remember that very scene in the new Star Trek one, that the one that was done by J.J. Abrams, is when Spock's father sat down and kind of had that one-on-one with Spock when he got in that fight with those three other boys in the logic chamber, and he said the reason why that he married his mother is because he just thought it was the right thing to do because he was observing human culture and that was the thing to do. But the thing that was so striking about that very phrase is then when Spock lost his mother in a uh, beaming incident to where when the planet Vulcan was getting destroyed, he lost his mother. And then when he came back and his father was there and they had like a back and forth, his father finally revealed the reason why I married your mother is because I loved her. And that really kind of showed the antithesis of what we can truly bring to the table when we just are not only honest with ourselves, but we're honest enough to show up in a way that people know that it's not a fake and it's real. And you're not going to kind of copy your way out of it and try to say, hey, I'm not going to show up in this way because if I start showing up this way, people are going to expect me to always show up that way. And there's just no way that I can. And I truly believe that the dichotomy that's been laid before us as a human race is we get to that place of expectation to a large degree, that when we are asking people to collaborate with us, we are wanting to have things done in that instant gratification kind of dynamic that we got. Say, it's like, if you really loved my mother, then why didn't you show that very same love to me? Why can't I have gotten that and everything? But then again, when it gets to that place of even competition and everything like that, and again, going back to Spock, when he was accepted to the Vulcan Ministry of Science, and he said, "Well, I have to regretfully inform you that I will not be taking this position." And he said, "Why? No one's ever done that." It's because I think one of the guys says, "Is it because of your human mother or something to that effect?" And Spock got really pissed off of that. He's like, uh, that's when he said, "I'm not going to accept this, and for your record for the Vulcan to be in such high esteem with only Vulcans on it, then your record won't be tarnished because I'm not accepting it." So there you go. Then his greatest line ever is when he actually looked to that council, and of course his father sat on that very same council, and he said these words, and with that kind of like, "I'm going to get you back" kind of thing. He's like, "Live long and prosper." And I just couldn't believe the way you said that. I was like, oh my word, Spock can show an actual human side of himself. And the more you get into how that kind of dichotomy goes into it, and going back to the Matrix too as well, Neo and Morpheus kind of had that same kind of relationship. It was one that there was that back and forth and everything, because as you know, Spock and uh, Captain Kirk was kind of like the best of friends, and they kind of really kind of played off each other. But going down that road, though, Anthony, how do we actually capitalize on collaboration and don't let competition kind of rule out the day, but do it for what it really is there for? Maybe again, like what Stephen was saying earlier today, and what you said about creating that nudge. How do we nudge people in the direction? It's not one of expectation, but the one that maybe is the one that's needed maybe at that very point in time. How do we get there?
That's, I mean, I think through questions. Um, because if you ask them questions, they're forced to think and respond. There's going to be the feelings, and there's going to be the them articulating it. And generally, you can only lie but so much. If those you keep asking them questions, they're forced to basically just think like, if I pick A, how do I feel versus B, how do I feel? And eventually it leads them to the root of what it is that is driving that. It's like, you have all this information at the surface, at the bottom, and it's fighting to get through, but it's like making its way through all this mess before it gets to the surface and affects us in the way we react. And so it's difficult to realize how many sometimes layers of meaning are hidden behind our feelings, where you'll feel a certain way but you don't really understand why you feel that way. And sometimes why you feel that way, you think it, oh well, maybe it's because it's connected to this, but then it leads back to a deeper intention or a deeper situation. I mean, I remember one time I was experiencing a journey, a one of visual and whatnot, situations that you can probably get some perspective of what I'm talking about. And it was psilocybin. And when I was going through that experience, I remember a particular moment where I thought to myself about a specific, I forgot exactly what the mannerism, I was acting a certain way. I might have been 25 or 6 at the time. I was able to track it back. I remember exactly in this moment where I was on the school bus. Might have been in like middle school. I acted a certain way. I got this positive response from this girl. And then after that, there were these several other moments where I felt a similar scenario. I acted the same way, didn't really get the same response, but didn't really get a negative response. And so it was like from that time on, I literally just behaved a certain way with respect to a certain situation, because that's what worked that one time on the school bus as a kid. And you realize that if you allow yourself to never dig back into your emotions, you will be a grown person that's acting based on a child's uh, memory, a child's experience. Um, I mean, there's another scenario, maybe a little bit more connected to people can follow, where I was having an argument with my mom about something, and I was basically trying to tell her that she was like, "Why are you being such an asshole?" Basically, and I was basically trying to blame it on my stepdad. I was like, maybe I wouldn't have been like this, maybe I wouldn't treat you like this if I wasn't raised by that guy. And I thought to myself, well, wait a second, if I can blame my actions as an adult on him, then what, he doesn't have a dad, he can't blame that on. And I thought about his dad and I was like, oh well, I know that situation wasn't any better, definitely a lot worse. And you realize that if you trace that all the way back to the conclusion, it's like every person can just blame all their actions on the first human ever. So until you take responsibility for your feelings and what you're doing or what you're interacting with and how that
Excuse
influences
me.
it, you'll never know who you are. You'll always just be someone who's walking around following the crowd because you're trying to survive and you're acting based on children's instincts, things that were given to you by someone else who got them from someone else when they were a child, and you just never outgrew it, like someone never told you Santa Claus wasn't real, but it's some aspect that's unique to you. Again, like that school bus situation, I acted some weird way. Just something as simple as that can have an effect that changes your entire life all the way through up until the last moments, until you eventually are forced to come face to face with it, which it's like credit card debt. It gets worse the more you stack it.
But see, that goes to I truly believe our bigger place here on Earth is, like you said, maybe if we have been conditioned to believe that there was no Santa Claus and Santa Claus wasn't real, granted, that might be quote unquote technically true, but maybe when we instill a sense of maybe a belief into somebody in one way, shape, matter, or form, it's like as we all have done as kids, and I've done it myself, that we were told that there was the Tooth Fairy, there was Santa Claus, there was the Easter Bunny, all that kind of stuff, and we got head over heels with all those holidays. But really, the message behind that was the very message in and of itself. And see, I believe that gets really lost in and of itself when it comes even to a place of collaboration. People are seeing it maybe from their only point of view, and maybe it's the one they only know. But if you start attaching these kind of messages with a sense of not only faith, maybe, and I'm not being religious here, but a sense of faith and that sense of belief in creating a better world and everyone can get behind. And it's like on today's call with Stephen, with that shared intention in mind, excuse me, can we have that same shared sense of belief? And I truly believe belief can come in many ways, shape, matters, and forms, because not everyone believes in the very same way, and that's okay. I have no problem with that. But it's about recognizing when you bring all these shared beliefs into the mix, that it reaches that unifying kind of dynamic or goal or seat at the table, if you call it that. And I truly believe, Anthony, that if you give that to people through the gift of invitation, and you do that day in and day out consistently, and they see that and resonate with that, I'm a firm believer. It's not a matter of if they will collaborate with you. It's just only a matter of when and how that may look like, because not every collaboration goes like a like a shotgun shell out of a shotgun, like blazing 1,000 miles an hour. It was like a home run right off the bat. It was never that way to begin with. It was just it was this conversation that led to this conversation. Just popped in my head. All those kind of things come those in those kind of very moments, because and I think that's the biggest thing in and of itself. And you know what? I'd like to get your thoughts on it, but I'm going to find something that's going to be really, really, really resonating with a lot of people. But as you were sharing that, I'm going to search that out, because the video that I'm about ready to play, I'm sure it's going to really knock it out of the park. But Anthony, I would love to hear your thoughts, though.
I think now, in my 30s, I think of I hope there's not like a PG warning on this, whatever, but I, I I liken trying to get to your goal or success or the final point to like sex, right? When you're younger, when you just whatever, you just want to rush in and just jump right into it. And in life, I think there's a difference between having that situation, someone who's just, I guess, given all of their wealth at birth. They're just raised in this family where everything is given to them. They have all of the connections, the wealth, anything that they could, think of, they have access to, but then they lose themselves because they never had to go through the path of finding themselves, to go through situations of challenge and overcome, conflict within themselves. And once you do that, I think you start to enjoy the pursuit, because at the end of the day, life is just about the experience, right? It's not like the whole purpose of life forms are to specifically create this one thing that isn't then supposed to create. The whole idea is basically experiences only exist with respect to previous experiences. And so either we do something that creates more experiences, or we do something that basically removes experiences. So I think it's just pretty straightforward. How do you want to do it? Do you want to get every picture you can along the way, take your time, enjoy the wind as it comes over the mountain or whatever, enjoy the view outside your window before pass by? Do you want to think about the trip and think about all of those moments, along the way? Or do you want to literally just get there? Do you want to just skip ahead to being on the mountain? There's this movie Click, right, by Adam Sandler, kind of making that same point. We have this desire to just rush through things, myself included. I want everything I want right here, right now. But that's not the truth. I think ultimately we don't. And trying to find that balance between just, I guess in this point, it's more just living in the now and letting, I guess, the balance things make themselves present to you. Yeah, makes sense.
Absolutely, 100%. I love that, Anthony. And let's welcome in Eliana. Eliana, how you doing this afternoon,
Hey
ma'am?
everyone. Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, good.
Doing well, doing well. How's your wonderful
It's
Wednesday going?
going. I mean, it's I call it Witness Day. So it's the day where I do my audios and do my Spotify and try to join in conversations, those that attract me. So it's Wednesday. We're almost done with our midweek. So good. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good.
Oh, I can't complain, Anthony. Can you?
No, no.
And even if we do, what is that going to get us, right? Maybe a little bit of reflection. We can let it go,
Yeah.
but we got to keep going forward. I mean, there's no going backwards. Even if we try, like I can't. I just can't go backwards. I'm all forward.
This is my time machine plan so far as they exist. And so as you can see, they're blank. So until I figure that one out, I just don't see the point in going back over these old ideas.
Yep.
Where's Doc Brown when you
Oh
need
my
him?
I
goodness.
have nowhere to start.
Awesome, awesome. Glad to see you here, Eliana. And well, of course, what we're talking about today is collaboration versus competition. What would that look like and mean to you? But before we get into that with you, Eliana, I found this video. It's from a great friend of mine. His name is Rob Howes. And I truly believe this is going to resonate with a lot of people. And I want to hear from all of you with this. So this is a great thing. It comes from an actual group that I was a part of with Rob. And when I kind of shared this with him within the group that I was still a part of, actually, it really, 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 really kind of resonated with him. And he's got a unique perspective on it. So when you watch this video, think in what we're talking about today, and also in concert of what we talked about on yesterday about trust. So think about trust, collaboration versus competition, and everything in between. Because then once you start kind of seeing how the dots get kind of connected, I truly believe it shows up in so many great and powerful ways. But here's Rob Howes. And like I said, I truly believe you
My
really
kind of
love this.
superhero. Look, he already has me.
Yep, yep, yep. But this is also in relevance to momentum, so think about that too as well. But let's listen to Rob Howes as well when it comes to momentum, collaboration, competition, and everything in between. But here's Rob Howes.
Videos! What's up, good people? I'm telling you, the internet is amazing. If you are in the right algorithm of people, oh my goodness, you never know what the heck you might learn and see. So Daryl Frater posted this thing in regards to momentum and the domino effect. If you've never seen the domino presentation, phenomenal. So Chris Berryman reposted it in our Content League group, Daryl Frater's post, and wow. I mean, you know how you have those aha moments? So I've seen this video before, but today it really resonated with me. And I'm going to show you this video. It's amazing how one tiny little domino about that big winds up amplifying its momentum by 2 billion and knocking over a 100-pound domino. It's unbelievable. Watch this.
So what I have here is a chain of dominoes. Each one is 1.5 times larger than the previous one. And the smallest domino is about 5 millimeters high and 1 millimeter thick. And I will carefully place it. And there are 13 dominoes. The largest domino, it weighs about 100 pounds and is more than 1 meter tall. Ready? Two. That was 13 dominoes. If I had 29 dominoes, the last domino would be as tall as the Empire State Building.
Now that's a boom. Now, of course, everything physically about that is fascinating. It's amazing. But what's more fascinating is that this is exactly the way human nature works. And so anything you're trying to do, it needs momentum. And most of us, we have a little start and we're wondering why we don't have the big push. But you don't realize it's momentum, it's consistent. So every domino hit another domino that was larger than it. Now, every domino wasn't that much larger than the domino before it. That's how life happens. You don't grow, you're 3 feet one day and then you're 6 feet the next day. It happens gradually. It's the law of incremental growth. But the point is this: once you realize that there is a process of momentum that happens, then you get more aware of it. And then you become more a part of it. And this is how life accelerates. So whether you're building a business or you're building momentum for your relationship and your marriage, it starts with the effort every day, consistently. And that effort over time grows gradually. And that effort over time magnifies from here to there. Whoa. Pretty good, guys. Pretty good. So keep it up. Just keep it up. Micro to macro. Small to big. There's steps to everything. You will evolve.
Nice.
So I would love to hear your thoughts on that from, of course, the great Rob Howes and everything. So, Anthony, what's your take on that?
Well, even now in this moment, I'm still thinking way too objectively. The whole time I was saying it, I was just going through all of the logic that's like, yeah, of course, yeah, support, that makes sense. Network effect, the idea of like all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it's I mean, at the end of the day, it's like not only do you have an effect on people and then they can have an effect on people, but you have an effect on yourself, right? It's like practicing to do something or learning it. And so it's kind of like this it's a positive feedback loop between the world and yourself. You act in a certain way that is forward, then the world responds appropriately, and then you reinforce that. If you start to fall away a little bit, you'll see that and you can correct for it and basically maintain that momentum. The start and the stop doesn't just stop the process for you, where to pick it back up, like anything you stop at the end of the day, you have to in the morning kind of go back through where you left off and pick back up. But then also people have to pick that back up. They'll forget you for the next cat video or anything else. So I mean, yeah, it just shows the effect of being able to do something that resonates with you and the group, something that you will improve on. It's like a video game, but for life. Life is a video game, I guess you could say. You get better if you play it every day. Of course, I feel like all these conversations, all these things I'm saying, I feel like I'm always just talking to myself. I'm always applying it to my own situation. So you could go ahead, Alana. I just want to mention that.
No, I mean I get it. I'm a 70s, 80s kid, so games I get, right? I mean, but it's a journey. You got to keep on pushing. You got to first find something that you really enjoy doing every day, all day. I mean, with your eyes closed during the worst times of life, where that's going to be your little sunshine every day. It might be that you only work on it for just a little bit of a day, and some of us are more fortunate where we can spend a little bit more time on our passion. But I know I tell everyone I am here. My story is real. I started in the corner of my kitchen with a registered LLC a couple of weeks before I was let go from a nice cushion hospital executive position. And I had that dream. And what I started like this has now carried me on a national level. I mean, who am I, right? I'm the same person that I was before, passionate about training, making sure people are compliant in the services that we're surrendering. And I found myself kind of managing all these government platforms. And now my universe, didn't think that all the hot topics were going to be right up my alley, but they're really all up my alley. So, you got to believe in yourself. And there comes a point of time where you got to stop validating. You don't have to validate yourself. It is what it is. Some people are okay with validation and, they promote themselves and they market and then, the talk is talk, but, who's really out here doing the work? And everybody's work is different. There's people that sit behind the scenes and lead. Unfortunately, I'm a leader that leads by example and explore and fall on my face before I can even speak on things as well. And so I just believe that, you got to find that right thing. And until you find that right thing, there's always going to be that wall that comes in front of you. And then you say, oh, well, after 6 years of me doing this, maybe it's not what I want to do, right? That's maybe because you need to step back and really think maybe out of those 6 years, what did I really like that I did in those 6 years, and then start over. Because there's there's not a golden rule that says you can't reinvent yourself. That's not. I think that's just something that we put in our minds from, maybe having that same message that we see that you got to do something. This is what you need to be, and this is your career track, and you can't move to every different direction as well.
Yeah, and I love that from both of you. Thank you so much. But this is from my great friend Brian Sumner, and hopefully, Brian, I would love for you to chime more in on this because I've learned a lot from you. He's the one that came up with the broken chair analogy, Anthony. That's the one I told you about yesterday. Great guy. But this is what he just said in the comment section. He said, collaboration and competition could be the same, a conspiracy to excel. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have a reason. There's no necessarily, I guess, reason for you to have to do it, except that you created a reason, reason something within yourself. So I'm still thinking about what Ileana was saying and how I was like, oh, obvious, that's dopamine circuit, right? Like you do something every day, something that brings that positive reward, even if it's only a little bit. And then every time you go to sleep at night, your brain's like wiring, it's going through the day. It's like, oh, mostly garbage except for this one thing that was good. And then it just puts all your calories into, adding that myelination and doing whatever it does where it removes unnecessary stuff in the same way we learn how to walk or ride a bike or
Mhm.
shoot free throws or snowboard or anything we do reflexively. We end up becoming better tool, better at whatever it is that we found ourselves to enjoy and the world enjoyed. So we got that positive feedback.
Mhm.
Now that I know it objectively, I'll just write it down on some code and I'll install it into my brain and upload my function. Or because that's isn't that great? Like it's just you think you just if I figure it out, that'll be it. I'll just know now.
No, I mean, come on. I mean, there's days where I wake up and I think, okay, well, I haven't heard any messages from above, so what the heck am I going to really talk about today? And it's just it's a skill. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not just, not everyone can run a business and a self-funded business at that. And in the arena that I'm in, which you compare to other big companies, and I'm like right there. And yes, I don't see anyone as a perfect leader. Even
right.
from our leader that we have now, people can debate his decisions, but then you talk to me and you'll hear me break them into a whole different logic because that's my area of what I do. I help people understand things that you might not understand because maybe you're like this, or maybe you're like this, or maybe you're, like the monkeys, right? No hear, no see, no evil, or whatever. Now the one with the phone, and now with the phone, well, maybe I'm the one with the phone trying to still be innovative. And I know it's I'm 52, right? When I was in my 30s, no way. I didn't think there's no way I could have envisioned I would be here. Now. And I just say it's because I kind of figured out a little bit what I want, what gave me that happy feeling. And I've gone through massive fallouts and funding from government entities to bringing smaller LLCs on board, thinking that we were all going to get funded, and they went, did X, Y, and Z. And then I had to tell them, so sorry, we just got the rug pulled under us. And then I looked like the shitty one that didn't know what the heck I was doing and bringing people along to, like, I lied. I mean, there's been so many hard lessons that I've learned, but I'm glad I've learned them the way I did because just like they just threw it at me, I had to learn it the fastest, the quickest possible way, digest it, cry a little bit, hit a wall or two, and get over it and keep on pushing as well, and no matter what journey you do, even if you're a single mom out there, every day it's a hustle, but there's always, I started late in life. I tell everyone I really did. I focused myself in being a young mom and making sure I took care of my boys. And I say boys with an S because in my head I thought, well, I had one kid. I might as well have the second one because the first one needs a buddy. There's two car seats, two seats, two bunk beds. And after that, I'm done. I might as well get it done. So I was the young mom at the age of 21 with two kids, both toddlers, trying to figure out how I was going to how to even try to get through college, how to get my kids through daycare, riding a bus transportation, living off of welfare. So when I say I know where my journey is, it just didn't come from one situation or one career path. For me, my life has always been a 360. And I think that's what, it takes someone to be able to utilize all aspects of their life and focus on that, because once you do that, then you can do it well, and no one can tell you you're not doing it right because, like mine, for me, no one can tell me I'm not doing things right because I'm going to tell you, well, I need you to look at this policy and procedures and then tell me what it is that you might not clearly saying right or understanding. Correct me, because if I'm saying something wrong, then it's public policy, right? So, but sometimes life, doesn't deal you those even cards, and some of us have to work a little bit harder. And then when we land in places that we know that we can help, I think that's what sometimes we're broken. You have ones that forget where they come from and stop sharing and become big and famous. And then you have others that say, no, I'm going to slow down because I need to share. Even if I don't get that big contract or that money, I got to share because I got to stay true to my mission as well. All right, I'm going to shut up now because
No,
I'm gonna have to leave you guys here at 2 o'clock. I gotta go meet my buddy and go bounce this Virginia Beach 2,400 mile traveling trip that I decided that we were gonna drive, thinking that my buddy was gonna help me drive. Guess what? My buddy does not drive like that. She scared the boo boos out of me. She's the person that gets behind the big rigs, like really close, and makes you curse while you're like, why are you only going 45? So no, as well. So yeah, that's my life though. Always
yeah,
a journey.
Well, see, when you really think about it, Ileana, and I thank you so much for sharing that yet again, is even when your buddy shows up and they only drive 45 to save themselves from that truck or whatever, and you end up saying, well, why are you driving like Fred Flintstone on the road? Why? I truly believe, though, Ileana and Anthony, when those people do show up, that really in and of itself matters, because it does show that level of collaboration they are wanting to do with you. And yes, granted, they might be driving slow like nobody's business, like driving Miss Daisy. Okay, I'm driving Miss Daisy around. That's okay. But then again, from that perception kind of mindset, from what others see, if Miss Daisy's driving this damn slow, then why is Ileana counting on her to do this? I can't get around them. Why am I here? You know? And I truly believe when we take a step back and actually see the full totality of what's going to occur, then we can probably say maybe if we just sit back, enjoy the ride, just take it for what it is, because we get so caught up in those other things in our head. Sometimes the best way to move forward is actually take your time to stand still and just take in for the moment. Because if we don't do that, not only do we lose, not only like in Rob House's video with momentum, not only could we lose that momentum and we don't get that big push, so to speak, but maybe we don't see potential, we don't see opportunity, and probably we don't even see how we move forward in that next step. What's your take on that?
yeah. That's I mean, it's a. I feel like there's so many ways that like what you're saying is like so obviously true from like biological, from systems, all the nerd ways to explain it. But basically, there's a lot of times where I feel like if you are just doing something and then there's no thought in between your actions, it's like it becomes more reflexive and you do less and less thinking. And eventually you'll find yourself just acting without thinking. But if you're not thinking, then you have no ability to actually steer yourself or direct yourself or change course or update. You're basically just become this machine and you can just plow right off course very easily. And I with that comes a certain amount of pain, and then with that pain comes like a certain amount of learning, and then that learning can be applied elsewhere. And so I mean, yeah, it's I feel like I'm talking like you talking to me or for myself so many times where there's just so much that like I already know that I'm supposed to do, right? Like I know the path, but I'm just not walking it. Like let me just try this a little bit more. Let me just see what happens. And I don't know what to say. I mean, it's like it's experience of life. Definitely have to find ways to calm down. And the thing is when you're calm, when something comes to you, it'll bring that excitement. It'll wake you up and it'll drive you into action. So the problem is stopping yourself when you're just driving blindly, and I guess picking up speed. When you know what you're supposed to do, just jump in and do it like a cold shower or going on a run.
Well, I can tell you, I don't think I'm driving Miss Daisy. I think I'm driving more Fast and Furious. I got a speed ticket to prove it on this 2,400 mile. We had to be safe. There was a lot of reflection, Anthony, for real, on this trip. Like my boundaries, my control. She was my BFF. It was a long ride. I became the mean friend, girlfriend for a minute. I was like, what is even happening? Like I became her mentor. Like I had to like shake her, like Fred, what is going on with you? So it was meant to be, right? I'm a true believer. Everything was meant to be. She was supposed to be in that car. I was supposed to be in the lead of the driving, and we did the best that we could. She can't take pictures. Just a lot that I learned from my good BFF that I've known for years, you guys. So, like I've learned, you never really know someone until you really are in their bubble. And sometimes you think you're in someone's bubble, but you're really not.
Mhm.
And I was a little bit discouraged of what some of the things that I've seen and the conversations that I had with my buddy, because I didn't realize that that was were a place where she resided in. And I'm all about empowerment and go, go, go. But when it comes close to your home and it just pops up where you're expecting a full Virginia Beach go journey and it ends up to be okay, great, wow, friend. Oh, all right. Well, we're gonna make the best of this as well. So there was a lot of empowerment that happened. I am a caretaker, so I left my hubby behind, which he will just have to. We're just gonna have to figure that traveling arrangement out as well, because he can GPS me. He can just follow and tell me where the nearest gas station is, and not make me have to drive 2 hours into town to find a gas station. But all right, you guys, I'm gonna have to go. My granddaughter is here from school. I got to make a run, but I always enjoy talking to you guys, and I appreciate you guys' time.
All right, we'll see you soon,
Yeah.
Liliana. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you
All
soon. Greatly
right,
appreciate
bye.
you.
Thank you too.
Oh,
That
that is
was a
great
great
yet
share.
again. And see, when you really think about Anthony, those stories truly do matter. And when we show up with those stories in mind, yes, I could be driving Miss Daisy going 45 miles an hour, or I could be like you, Anthony, be like Doc Brown, got to go 88 miles an hour to go back to the past to change my future. And I can't drive 55, just like that great song from uh, Sammy Hagar. And I truly believe once we understand not only what is the path and what does that path look like, how does that fit into the dynamic of collaboration? And it's like Ileana said, it was really poignant and very powerful. You really don't know somebody until they actually are in your bubble, so to speak, or you're in their world. Because if you really don't know what's in their world, you don't know, I won't say to a large extent that you don't really know who they are, but to a smaller extent, you only know part of their world and everything like that. But once you really get down deep and you do it again from intention, from inspiration, and impact in mind, and you really want to understand their world and really get to know them on that deep and meaningful. Think about it. To drive 2,400 miles in a car, Anthony, that to me sounds like it's a recipe, and I'm going to play both sides of the table here. It can be a recipe for disaster, or it can be a recipe for success. But it's just the way you look at that, because being confined maybe into, it could be an RV, it could be a car, or whatever. When you're in that confined space, you can only run so far if someone kind of irks you on one thing and say, hey, you know what, you're driving Miss Daisy like right now, like what are you doing? You got to get behind out of the way. So sometimes you got to really not only mind your manners, but you got to kind of cross your T's and dot your I's, because sometimes they can probably say, and I've heard horror stories with this, that there has been some people who would get on trips, and they would get to a point on their trip that was like one of those, like with Ileana, 2,400 miles, and I've seen it to where they literally, in the middle of their trip, they literally dropped off their roommate
Yeah.
or their girlfriend or whatever, and they say, "I'm going to leave you right here if you stop pestering me," and everything like it. And they've done that. Yeah, granted, they may have came back 10, 15 minutes later, but people can actually put you out in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, "What do I do now? What did I do wrong?" You know?
Yeah, some people won't even just put you out in the middle of nowhere. Some people will put themselves out in the middle of nowhere just because they rather be basically out in anywhere than to be trapped in whatever part of their mind and feelings that you brought them to. So it's like I can see that. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's some areas where there's some benefit to seeing someone's boundaries, to see like, okay, this obviously if you have the Midas touch and you can just do the influence them however you think or is beneficial or whatever. But if there's a scenario where it's even just an understanding of each other, right? Like how much are they going to be able to accept the parts of me that conflict with the parts of them? How much are they willing to challenge themselves to learn or to grow? I think i think a part of it is just a hurdle of anger. I think getting past anger isn't that difficult to do, and once people can get past anger, just to objectify it and train it to make it a subjective desire. Like I've mentioned situations where people can, where people they'll feel really bad about it because there's someone they don't like, but then they can gamify it with these easy ways where you just consider what you're going in there to do as a game, trying to maintain the way you feel. You don't like them, so you're trying to win. And the second they try and upset you, you don't respond, and then you see them get frustrated more. And so you can gamify just simply upsetting someone who's trying to upset you by not getting upset. Eventually becomes entrained, and then I mean, I don't see where the boundary is on what people might be willing to receive. I guess aside from just fatigue, because I'll download some information onto some people the second they start to become receptive. And so I don't know. I find there's a lot of practice in practice. I guess, or there's a lot of benefits in practice. You really don't know.
I truly believe that you can look at life in so many different ways, and I'm glad, Anthony, bringing the gaming aspect to collaboration and competition to today's call. There's someone that I know on LinkedIn. I forget his name, but this is what he really does each and every single day. He literally gamifies life to a large degree. And if anybody knows gaming, whether it be on PS4, PS3, PC, whatever that might be for you guys, there are actually multiple levels of gaming. One of which to where this actually the gamer itself, the person who's actually playing the game, but then also this what's called the NPC, the non-player
Character.
combatant or control or whatever that might be. And when you really think about it, if we're going to gamify our collaboration, even in relevance to competition, even in that world of gamifying our life, it gets me back to this quote yet again. It comes from the sports world. It's like don't hate the player, hate the game. You know, if someone really does the game very well, and they even when it comes to a video game, if they play a game so well that you can't beat them, give them props to, hey man, you did a good job. Can't say no to it. It is what it is. Good game. Thank you so much. Let's move on. Next level. There you go. But if we are willing to say that if I'm going to play this game and play it very well, and I do it in the context, again, through the understanding of the gift of invitation, the gift of intention, the gift of inspiration, and the gift of impact in mind, how do we gamify that to such a degree people not only accept the game and say game on, but also they're willing to take that step into that much larger world. And again, I have to yet bring Star Wars into this. Now, if you guys know it or not, Star Wars is now into the place of Fortnite. Now, Fortnite is a big battle royale kind of free player kind of dynamic, but now literally you can play as any person in the Fortnite ecosystem and everything like that. But when you really think about it, what Fortnite did with Star Wars, is they already took an existing franchise, is what Star Wars has truly become. And they said, well, what if we was to add our IP to Fortnite to bring more people into the ecosystem of Fortnite? Now, mind you, they've did this well as with Minecraft. Minecraft had a collaboration with Star Wars. Also, there has been pinball machines like Zen Pinball on PlayStation has been there. There's even a Monopoly game I've even now seen now that you can play on your phone, and it's even the board version of Monopoly and Star Wars. That's out there. So if we're wanting to gamify our life, like I said, in relevance to collaboration and also in competition, and that we want to have that best game in and of itself, I'll go back yet again to what I said on the other call this morning, Anthony, with Steven. It's like if there are 5 players on a basketball court, and they're always going to be those 5. But when you really think about it, you actually have 10 hands on any given point in time. So if we're going to gamify that, how do we take the best use of those 10 hands, or those 10 people or NPCs, however you want to call it? How can we best use them not only for our mutual advantage and maybe even theirs, but also for the other people who are sitting on the sidelines watching and just seeing that for what it is? What does that look like and mean to you from that kind of gamify kind of dynamic?
Well, let's see. I've only talked to a few people so far, but I saw just a bunch of areas where people are doing things that seem like they would overlap. Like I think it's Jay Pasca does like storytelling, or what is it? Basically, getting your message out through storytelling. Then I was talking to, I'm terrible with names, but Christine West, a few others that are doing all
Yeah.
of these things that have just so much overlap, that it's like all of the work that they're putting into the production of their own thing would be benefited from a collaborative result, whether or not they're
Yeah.
sharing the resources that would go between the two of them. Also, they're going to have the benefit of just the 2 different networks. Every time one person does something, there's going to be that connection that flows back and forth. There's also the ideas that can be created, the content that can be created that benefits from, just in this example, just two people who are doing something that's already in a very similar domain. And so, I mean, that's kind of what I guess got me all focused the other day. Instead of spending, I guess, I think I looked at things maybe more or less objectively than is necessary, but just kind of realizing how much of people's efforts could be used collaboratively. But then also when it comes to competitively, there's a high end people, high end performers out there that want to have maybe their political view or their spiritual, whatever their view is that they have an opposition to, right? Recognizing that in this game, you win by being able to convince the other team that they lost, or have members on that other side concede. And you don't do that through trying to necessarily just argue and win some point. It comes through understanding, because until you can understand their perspective, then you won't be able to get them to understand yours. And I think that's basically what everyone wants. It doesn't matter how much you really take your time to do research and understand the depths of things. Anyone who has these really polarized views on things, it's because they have a viewpoint or perspective, and they think that theirs is relevant and should be maybe the only perspective, regardless of whatever they think about other perspectives, is that for them to communicate their own, you have to be able to better understand others. Otherwise, you won't be able to communicate. You'll say words that have different meanings or different words and different phrasings. People will pick up more on body language than they'll pick up on actual words. Some people need to hear the words and they don't care about body language. I mean, there's just all of the aspects that come together that at the end of the day, it's like the best way to be is authentic with yourself and authentic with people, which means expressing yourself as well as you can in any situation. So, there's like right now, right, when it comes to communication, something that I need to work on that would be a big difference is recognizing when to or not maybe at all weaning myself off of my medical prescription for amphetamines. I call them amphetamines because people call it Adderall to be nice, but Adderall is prescribed amphetamines. And it's really great for sitting here on the computer, clicking and typing and moving numbers from here to there or doing that stuff. But then when it comes to communicating, it's a lot more awkward because I'm not necessarily in the moment as much as I'm inside my head. And so, you find yourself acting a little awkward and you're not as fluid or smooth or able to convey your message as well. And all of this just comes down to really, I guess, again, accepting yourself, the mistakes you made, so that way you can better understand them, so that way you can better get past them.
Absolutely. And the more that you're sharing there, yet again, I'm just learning and taking in everything that you've been saying, and the more that I reflected on what you're saying there, like with Jay or Christine West or Ileana or whoever that might be, I have to go back yet again to that very domino video we just saw earlier, and think about it. If that first domino was that freaking small, and he said at the end of the video, if he put it out 29 dominoes out, it would be taller, if not taller, than the Empire State Building. Now, mind you, even if we are gamifying our lives to that extent that we can literally be as tall, if not taller, than the Empire State Building, how does that look like? Well, for me, it shows up in a place of interconnectivity. It shows up of what everyone brings to the table. It's just like Jay, really great in storytelling. Christine, really great about knowing who she really is, because going from one part of the country and then moving all the way to Alaska foundationally changed her life like she would never knew. And then she became the person that she is today. Sometimes it does take that journey, whether it be going on the road to Virginia Beach and then finding out who your best friend really is in and of itself. But when you really think about it, especially in that kind of 29 domino momentum kind of effect, it also creates legacy. It creates more potential. It creates that sense of community based in unity. And this is what I wanted to share with Stephen on today's earlier call. It's about also recognizing that we can all choose that we want to be really, really curious about everybody else, and that we choose that curiosity over clash. But through the conversations that we have, or even in the games that we play, that we can have a great and meaningful discussion or game, or however you want to call it, that can move the needle and dialogue forward for all involved. And they can not only get more involved with the game, so to speak, or even the conversation or the movement or whatever that might be, but then maybe at the end of the day, we can recognize what is all our interconnected common purpose. It's like I shared today, of course, on Stephen's call, about how my dream can be probably interconnected to Paul's dream, and how Paul's dream could probably be interconnected to mine. Our dreams can be completely diverse and different from one another, and that's okay. But even where we're talking about even how we gamify even our dreams, to me, a dream comes from a place of a idea, and because an idea is powerful in and of itself. So I truly believe an idea and dream sharing and interconnectivity. We really don't really dive in too much like we really should, because even when we're sleeping, we're really thinking. We're doing that consciously or even unconsciously, because sometimes they say when you go to bed, you remember probably most often than not the last thing you either read or listened to before you go to bed. And it's just one of those things. So if that's going to be the case, how can we better shape up not only our game, but better shape up our connectivity, our collaboration, and maybe be a positive influence with the competition in mind, and maybe we get more people off the bench, so to speak, and get into the game. And I truly believe, Anthony, there are many ways to do that. Are there not?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the more exciting thing that I was looking at is that I went into this with the idea that I was going to talk to people, and then here I was going to have to like sit down and come up with some super creative like way to like connect everything and like bring nope, everything everyone's doing, I'm just looking at it like, oh, you guys, like what's going on here? Like it's like someone took a puzzle box and just threw all the pieces all over the place. I'm just picking them up. I'm like, hey, look, here's your piece and here's their piece. I think it fits like that. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's not nearly as much work as I thought it was going to be. I mean, I just kind of started, and I feel like I spent more time again just thinking, or not just acting, I guess you could say. And and ultimately, one thing I wanted to mention was like when I mentioned like to gamify things or to look at things as a game. I think that kind of has this perception of like trivial, that it's trivial.
Hmm.
But I mean, go up to any kid that's playing a video game and plug it out and see how trivial that is. They'll lose their mind, and all it is connected to the screen. When I
Yeah.
say gamify it, it's literally to focus on it the same way you would a game. They take all the time to learn what all the buttons do and what all the secret hideouts, where this is located, how that works. They try it this way, it doesn't work. They try it again. They keep trying in different ways and over and different and over, and eventually they leave. They go back someplace else. They go and collect more whatever tokens. They turn it into something that's, well, they're giving their all. But
Right.
because in life we're told just to do what you're told, follow this path, and that's all you get really. There's no reward when you play life, at least not up front right away, which you see when you play life like a game, because there's just really not a lot of, I guess you could say, easy buttons to use. It's more just like your
Right.
whole life is structured. So getting people to see what they have within their availability is, I think, the hard part. You get used to playing with one controller, and to pick up another one is to look at life with a different perspective, a different way in which you can approach things, that others can approach things, and just continually collecting as much information as you can from wherever you can, getting it into a format that you can express to someone else, so that way they can get the same utility. They're going to get some benefit. They'll want to spread it to others. That benefit steps them up, then they can provide you with something, and it just becomes this feedback mechanism where uh, just you see a possible explosion of creativity, because it was just basically waiting to come to. Um, yeah, it's just envisioning it really, and then acting on that vision, in connecting, I guess, that dopamine
Yeah.
triggering to that reward, even though the reward is, who knows how far out it is.
Well, as you were sharing there, this just popped in my head, and I'll encourage everyone, go to the Joe Rogan Experience podcast and go to the episode that had Mike Rowe and Joe Course on the show. And it goes back, and I don't know what the timestamp is, but you probably have to find out where it is. But they talk in one of the segments on the broadcast that where I think Joe said to Mike that it's almost like there was a study done in some kind of medical journal, college, whatever the kind of thing, and they said that 82% of doctors who actually played video games actually were more successful in what they did as a doctor than the people who didn't play video games. So now we've been telling kids forever, don't play video games. They're not good for you. When in fact, it's the total opposite. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, it makes sense. If you see anything that has uh that dopamine connection where you'll just if you look at what a kid's doing when they're playing a game, it's not as if it's just completely hedonistic fun. There's effort that goes into what they're doing. So anything that you're willing to put effort into to get better at is one that's already training you to have control over your dopamine, right? Because a lot of times we just do what we're told, we get this reward that everyone tells us to get, and then we're just looking around for a validation. I've got this nice car everyone can look at me in and makes me feel good. But ultimately, feeling good is with respect to what you can pursue, allows you to then grow to any there's no stopping it. I mean, just imagine what you could have learned in that 13 years from K through 12 if you were just in the world. But now you have far more than that people just don't spend any more time learning. It's not only just that, but it's connecting the cognitive with the muscle response with the visual, right? And so it's like if your vision with respect to time and your hand action, it's information comes in, you have to process it and you have to send it back out through your hands. So it's like it makes sense that you would be better at training how your hands processing and visual system work together through practice. Um, I mean, finding that in life now, where it's like you enjoy the practice and then you act on that, regardless of what others may necessarily say. Um, I think it's something that's worth doing, the, especially more focused toward the younger male community, looking
Mhm.
for confidence and healthy masculinity. It's to overcome challenges, to see something that interests you or excites you, and then the idea that progression toward it in any level gets you excited. And when someone's like, hey, that's risky, that's scary, and you're looking at the reward and you're making a judgment call. And then that's how you expand your domain of experience, expand your domain of information, of practice, of anything that you would correlate to getting better at something. And
Right.
the opposite is true. The more you act in fear, you try to avoid things, you try to, you know, keep yourself in this bliss, easy, relaxed state, the more you'll just never, you won't just not grow, you'll decay. It's like
Right.
if you put your arm in a sling for a couple months and you didn't use it, like how useful would that arm be? But
Yeah.
people do that with themselves.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And see, that's why I actually believe, Anthony, the best way to get people to collaborate with you and maybe have that healthy sense of competition and say, hey, I'm not going to one up Anthony, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to nudge him to be better. And it's like if you're really good at Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six and you're a good sniper, snipe away, baby. If you can be that sniper that has my back, go for it. I'm not going to say no to it and everything like that. But then again, we got to understand what people are not only good at and can excel in, but also find out are there other things that they can do and encourage that. Yeah, granted, not everyone's going to be a sniper, not everyone's going to be a tank driver, or not everyone's going to be an engineer. That's just literally the reality of life. We just got to really recognize that that's there. But when we start encouraging people to go outside of something they don't really believe or even know, it's like I said, the video game industry got a bad rap for years, saying that it was going to decay our kids. It was going to make them a wreck. It's going to lead to this, that, and the other. I mean, all the litany of identity politics and everything like that. And really, when in fact, now we kind of find out that the polar opposite was actually the reality in relative terms. And that's why I truly believe, Anthony, when you just show people what is actually there, not what they perceive it to be, not what they feel it to be, not what they think it to be, but what is actually there. Even though they may have a completely different view on it 2 weeks from now versus what they have today, which that's going to change. I'm very cognizant of that. But I understand. But if they see what the potential therein lies on the greater whole scale, then maybe, just maybe, they can have an opportunity to grow and say, hey, I don't necessarily have to be a sniper today, but maybe I can be the driver. I can drive that car to pick people up along the way, that I don't have to worry about going 45 miles an hour. I can drive like it's 1999 and go 88 miles an hour, and people will be okay with that because they know that that's kind of maybe my role. But then again, when other people are, again, like I said, sitting on the sidelines, and I found this out, especially playing some online video games myself, when those people are sitting out there from the observer perspective, what they will do is say, hey, here's this guy, watch him. Hey, here's this guy, watch her, and everything like that. And they start seeing those things. So when you really think about it, even the people that's in the stand, so to speak, I truly am a firm believer, Anthony, they can be your best advocate and best player on the field, even though they may not even be on the field, because they see something that maybe you don't. And that comes into the place of blind spots. And that's what I want to go into next, is how does blind spots work out in a place of collaboration and competition? How does that play out for you?
Well, in collaboration, hopefully blind spots are exposed through either there's trust, where there's people who have some connection to you that'll have some, they'll feel the change, whether or not they're observing it directly or it influences them, and then they can communicate that to you. Or in competition with a blind spot usually becomes you're made aware of it when it becomes a vulnerability to you, when it becomes exploited. And so it kind of forces you to make the decision either for yourself or to act on the decision after it's already happened. It's kind of like a pre contemplation versus like a post contemplation. Do you think here and then act, or do you wait for it to happen and then think about it and then act? And obviously you want to be able to think as much as you can, but ultimately there's some times where there's nothing to think about because you don't have any information. You don't really know what comes next, which case you just have to act. And then you have to be durable enough. You have to have gone through enough that you can experience whatever comes out the other side. This connects back, I guess, to the benefits I could see from having a scenario where you don't necessarily get everything right away, where things are slow, where there's a lot of failure and there's a lot of difficulties. It allows you to at least be someone who, when you get to the front of the crowd and you're putting your hands out and you're leading out front, and something bad happens, and you're looking and everyone's looking at you, you've gone through enough that you can handle that without allowing that to crumble you. And that's not something that you could read in a book or practice, or that anyone would have trust in if they hadn't seen it on some other level, if you hadn't seen it in yourself in some other level. So, not beating yourself up for the difficulties or the pain or the stress you've gone through, but looking at yourself as like, look at me here. I'm like, today is fine. Like, and I had all these things that, to take all those negative emotions and pile them up on that mountain of insurmountability, but then you realize you've already passed the summit. It's behind you. And if you could pass that and you didn't know you could, well, imagine what else you may or may not be able to when you're using this information, when you're applying it, when you have people you can trust, and there's people that you can compete with, so that way you can cover, I guess, your 6 and your 12. Because again, it's not, it's definitely the people on in the sidelines that you're mentioning, being able to see something that you can't. There's a lot, obviously. I mean, because the whole thing that we're creating is basically for those on the sidelines, at least targeted. It's not necessarily that creators always creating stuff for people that are in the niche. It's always someone on the outside, and so it's like they hold the purpose. They hold your purpose, your goal. And so, do with it what you will, but if they don't resonate with it, it's like you had this feeling attached to something you imagined in your head. You tried to put it out into the world, but others didn't respond to it. It's not because there's something wrong with them. It's because there's something wrong with your perception. What you feel, what you think, and how you put it in the world are misaligned. And by seeing how other people respond to it, tuning that appropriately, the dopamine kicks in when you get closer to the goal. You basically rewire your brain to be excited for the things that are, your niche, the things that are difficult that you can provide for others, and it gives you purpose, meaning something
Yeah,
to get up for every day.
yeah. And see, I truly believe, Anthony, what we're building here, bringing humanity together, is going to bring those people who are in those seats on the sidelines, and in one way, shape, matter, or form, they're going to help us not only see the blind spots that we don't necessarily see, but also they will see something other than what we currently see right here, right now. They can even see maybe greater potential. They can see greater opportunity. They can see thriving and growth take place in a much different way. Because again, I have to bring the military aspect into this. It's because, especially in the military, it's all about the mission. They are only solely focused on the mission at hand. They only got blinders on and say, said mission must be done at any and all cost. That being said, though, when you're leading a community and movement of people that's built upon, again, unity, collaboration, inspiration, intention, impact, and everything in between, maybe when you do have those people that do have those blinders on, maybe we nudge them and say, you don't need those blinders here. Maybe you can take a step back and see it from the seats. So you give literally people the freedom, and I truly believe this is going to be a great gift to us all here, bringing humanity together, is they can come not only out of the stands and onto the field, but they can work their way back and forth. They can actually maneuver in that kind of way. Because think about it, if that field is so large as it is, there's so much room that you can go to, and it's not one place that probably you're meant to be. But again, like I recognize this too as well, you're meant to be where you're meant to be at the given point in time. So maybe you might be in left field today, but tomorrow you're at third base, and that's okay. But then again, you may end up turning right back around and saying, I'm not going to play third base, but you know what? I'm going to be the first base coach, because you know what? I'm going to put something in your ear and say, I see something out of this. I see something out of this. When I tell you to steal, steal. And I truly believe when you do things not only from the person actually guiding the mission, leading the mission, or being a part of the mission or whatever, and of course they have those blinders on, but we give people the freedom to, again, take those blinders off. We get people to take that step back and forth to such an extent they see the larger pieces at play. It's going back to what you said about everyone's being dumped in that puzzle piece. There's a huge puzzle here and everything like that. How do we fit these puzzle pieces together? Well, you fit Christine in with Jay. You fit Jay in with Ileana. You fit Ileana in with Keith. You fit Keith in with Tom. And you kind of start to mesh those things together. But you're going to say, well, how do you put all those pieces together? And again, my wife, she loves putting pieces of puzzles together, because the way she does it, she always does the outside then work in. She never starts in the middle, because you really don't know what the middle is, because there's no way to find the middle until you start the outside. But some people have a keen eye to do that. But again, there's just so many ways that we can do that. And I know we're getting ready to be close on time here, because I got to spend some time with my wife, and we'll probably close out the call. because no one else is really on the call right now. So it's only me and you. So we'll probably finish up our final thoughts here in a second. But I just truly believe if you start giving people that freedom, and again, I truly believe, Anthony, that choice is the ultimate path to freedom. And if people see that and resonate with that, even if we're the shirtless dancing guy in the middle of a field, dancing all crazy and everything, and we're telling people, come on in, come on in, come on in. But yet we're not making it about them, about us, but we're really making it about them. Then more people start joining in. And see, like I said, that's a great video. And I highly encourage you guys. It's from Derek Sievers. It's on YouTube. It's called How to Start a Movement. I encourage you guys to go see that too as well. 3 minutes or less, not only do you see everything from leadership to followership, but also collaboration, maybe even a little competition, because some people like to dance more than others. So you see that too. It's like, I can outdance this guy. And it's all there. So, Anthony, I want to get your final thoughts and everything on today's great and engaging discussion about collaboration and competition. And I'll send it over to you.
Well, I mean, in this situation, I'm thinking that a lot of times it's, again, you can't walk through the door for them. You can only show it to them. But ideally, you can give them as many options as they're able to or willing to sort through themselves. So that way they have as many options as possible. So, making those examples are just like, if they want to have a perception of what they could benefit from or what they could do, these are some ideas that I have, but maybe you could do it any other kind of way where basically you are already doing what you need to do or what worked for you. You know how to do stuff. Basically, if you can make a product that gets better or over time, and you're doing it together, then I trust that it'll get better, even better than it was before. You have twice as many hands, eyes, mouth, whatever. And so by just allowing them to kind of, I kind of almost want to just put the pieces on the table and be like, where do you think you fit in, or where would you like to fit in? You could be over there. That would be an idea. And then once it does that, that delegates so much off of your back. It allows you to focus on a different perspective. It allows you to get not only more insight because you have more competent, more aware individuals that are also more confident. But then it's just like how I've seen so many people that try to grow from the pyramid structure where it's completely top down, and it's slow, it's stressful the higher you go up, and it doesn't really make any sense. Having the work be delegated, having everything be delegated at the level where they get the rewards for their efforts, they get to work toward increasing then it requires, I think, less actual trust, because it's more, do I trust that they'll act in their best interest more so than my own or for the greater good? Yeah, I trust that they'll work in their own self-interest. And if all of their self-interest are aligned in a way that benefit the masses when they follow through with them, then that's just a double point, because like I get what I want, I get external reinforcement. How do I go wrong from here? Well, the whole group would have to go wrong on a much more level, but ultimately doing that, I think, provides a lot more safety, confidence, like just everything that would drive a person. Whereas the alternative is you're become a ventriloquist dummy that's looking for another puppet master, and there's no connection between the employees or what their work is doing and the outcome. So I have a lot of stuff to apply.
Yeah, and I love that. I'm glad you kind of ended up with about letting go of the outcome, and that's another discussion we'll have very soon too as well. But my final thoughts when it comes to not only trust but collaboration and competition in mind, I've said before and I'll say it again, everything's interconnected to everything else. It's already there. It's just a matter of how we not only show up to that, but how does that look to us in that very now moment? Because our trust is not only given and received because it's inherent to each and every single one of us, but also so too is collaboration. Collaboration is inherent to all of us. It's there. We just got to choose to either we give it or we receive it. That's just the way it is. Same thing with competition. There's always going to be the bright side of uh, competition, to where you just kind of say, hey, you can do better than this. You can be the next Usain Bolt, and you can go faster than Usain. And even though Usain might say, hey, you're insane in the brain, you ain't going to be better than me, but yet there'll be somebody out there who'll break the record, because that's just the way it works. But then again, this the ugly side of competition too as well. Again, like what John C. Maxwell says in this great book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Why in Sam Hill we were taught King in the Hill just to literally climb on someone else's back and shoulders and everything in between, just to be on top. And we make a competition that's not really inviting and engaging, and we probably see more blind spots than we can even possibly fathom to count. But then again, we just make it about us and nobody else. And for me, I can't do that no longer. I can't be that one who climbs on top of somebody else's shoulder to have that recognition that I did something good, or I get that title, or I get that promotion, or I get that fame and fortune. I can no longer do that. I used to be one of those kind of people, Anthony, that I sought that out at every turn, and I can't do that. I said, I'm doing this not for myself, but for so many other different people, because I know and recognize there are far more people who are not only more capable than me and maybe even smarter than me and have more business acumen than me. But then again, I'm willing to listen to them, because if I'm willing to listen and to learn, then not only can I lead myself in a completely different way than what I did yesterday, and even better set up my tomorrow because of what I've learned today, then I can do the very same thing with others when I share that with others through the constant gift of invitation, the showing up as who I am. And then when people start seeing that day in and day out, and they see that come to play, yeah, mind you, we're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, even on the same team. I guarantee you, there are people with teammates on a team that literally, I kid you not, hate each other's guts. And
There's a
they would
meaning on
literally
that.
still play on the same team to get the same end goal. But why are they the best of the friends? That's just the way it is. But maybe over time, though, they see that, and maybe I could turn that enemy to a friend. And if you do that consistently, even if you're having it inside your own organization or community, small business, whatever that might be, that's better to have than not to have. Because again, like I said before, Anthony, on these calls, I'd rather get to the point of everyone being on the 80-20 side of things. That 80% of the people could be all in agreement and maybe even all in alignment. And of course, there's going to be those 20% of the people who will be in that place of disagreement, disarray, not in alignment, not in an agreement. But over time, it's just like what Rob House said about the law of incremental growth. It's not a matter of if it gets big, it's only a matter of when it does, because everything's done from an incremental standpoint. So if that's going to be the case, there are going to be people who's going to come to your side of the table in increments. It's not going to be that big leap. It's not going to be that big jump. But it's those small little things over time. And I truly believe, Anthony, those small things matter. And when they see that and understand that, maybe they can get to your side of the equation and just let that be. So again, Anthony, thank you so much. And I know you got some last words to say, so over to you.
Well, I was just thinking that everything that we think of as being negative, like someone on your team that hates you, I think even that in itself is an opportunity of growth. Why did they hate you? Maybe there's some way that you're performing or acting that's minimizing their perception of themselves. That minimization of their perception of themselves influences how they play the game, what they think that they can achieve. Maybe there's another maybe there's another position that hasn't been invented yet that would ameliorate this problem. There's a lot of situations where even in the negative or perceived negative, like the idea of getting to the top of the hill, just to be at the top of the hill, not necessarily. Sometimes it's just easier because from this perspective, more people will look out at you. You can take some of that dirt, throw it around, build others up, or sometimes other people will see you and then that'll help. But I mean, I don't think there's any major overnight jump that's ever been worth anything. It's never been like you worked hard towards something and then it just happened. Maybe the way it appeared in the world was that way, but that's
Mhm.
never the way growth is.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm actually glad you said about the working hard dynamic. And that's another conversation we'll have too as well. Because I truly believe we've all been conditioned to believe and also to say that we all work hard. I get it. I understand it. Absolutely 110%. No one on this earth, I won't say in one way, shape, matter, or form, doesn't put a level of work into what they do. But it's not necessarily the hardness of this. And here's the reason why I'm saying this. It's because when we start saying that, hey, I work hard, I have my blood and sweat and tears and all this. Absolutely, I get it, 100%. But sometimes what we've done when we say that to people, especially in a place of collaboration or even in competition, we get to a place that we make it about us, not about them. Say we're just boasting ourselves up to, hey, that we the one that did this deadline and we did the proposal and we put our blood, sweat, and tears and we even missed Christmas for it.
And not only does it make it about yourself, that misaligns value. Like that, working hard doesn't equate to creating value. You can work hard and pound rocks into smaller rocks all day, but it's looking at the outcome, I think, and really just assessing what is good and where it came from, right? Like, how do you recreate this? You're going to recreate it on your own for real? That's never the case. There's always others that are involved. I mean, just the language we're speaking in and the tools we use, it's all off the backs of our ancestors. And to think that, any idea or anything is yours is insane. Like, ideas, where do they come from? They literally pop into your head. You don't know where they come from, when they're going to show up. And when they leave, they're gone. And someone like yourself says something and it makes me think of something else or anyone else. It's all about maximizing, I think, the effects of both collaboration and competition, right?
Correct.
It's to push us out of that local minima because people get comfortable. Collaborate so that way you can achieve more. Competition so that way you don't get too comfortable in a place that you shouldn't be getting comfortable in.
Yeah.
Because we're the progress machines, That's what we do.
And
Right.
that's where growth really can truly set in, because then again, when we actually understand that the success that's going to be derived from the kind of nudging that we do, not only through our leadership, but literally from our human kind of connectivity with people, our humanness, so to speak, then it will shine through each and every single day. Because if people are willing to follow you to the very depths of the earth, no matter if they're getting paid for it or not, but they're still willing to follow you, that says something that, hey, I'm willing to be with you regardless of if I'm getting paid for it or not. And that shows to your credibility as a human being, your authenticity, your credibility, your reputation, everything in between. That's all there. So I love where this is going. But you guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us today. If you have any questions or things that you want to bring to the table, please reach out to Anthony or to myself, and we will love to have that great one-on-one discussion with all of you. We want to hear more from you guys. We want to get truly engaged. Truly want to find out from you what really matters most to you, and what does competition and collaboration look like with you. And of course, our last call of the week will be tomorrow. We'll be talking about tomorrow. Are you a connection connector or connection collector? And of course, that was inspired by my great friend and partner, Keith Kupperman. Now, I truly believe you guys are going to love that. So we'll see everyone tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Eastern Daylight Time. We would love for you all to be there. So again, please follow my page and follow our business page at Bringing Humanity Together on LinkedIn. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, follow our Bringing Humanity Together page on YouTube. We would love to hear from you on tomorrow's call. So, Anthony, thank you so much, sir. See you tomorrow. You guys have a wonderful Wednesday. Make your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great one, everyone.